And for me that is always the great Superman story is when you're a god and you are limitless in power, what is your restraining factor? What is your moral compass? What keeps you from doing whatever you want to do in the most narcissistic way possible? And I think that's why I've always been fascinated with Superman, is that ability to find that moral compass when you don't have to find
You
it.
ought to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. All
James, I know we're like three
you
weeks
would
late
be.
and we don't normally do this, but I've been away on vacation. I'm in the UK, walking across England with my 14-year-old son. And so we didn't get a chance to do Superman or talk Superman. And so you are doing this at my request because I'm just dying to talk Superman. I love Superman to the point where even 2, 3 weeks ago when Superman came out and we were walking across England, there is one town that we passed through over the 2 weeks that is big enough to have a cinema. In a converted train station in the city of Richmond, there
Oh,
is a
lovely.
two screen cinema. And sure enough, it was showing Superman. And so we ducked in from the UK rain at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, they in the UK they say 4 o'clock, but there's like a half an hour of ads. It's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Like not 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It was advertised 4 o'clock. The movie started at 4:30. Despite that, we saw Superman, and subsequently I've seen it two more times. So I have seen it now three times.
Oh, excellent. I have seen it twice. I was going to say that we both saw it first time on foreign soil because I was in Korea when it opened, and it actually opened in Korea a day earlier than it opened here in Hong Kong. It opened on the Wednesday there. And I had a sort of a free day. I was at the film festival there, and so I went and booked myself in and saw it in IMAX on opening day, and it was great. And then when I got back, my wife wanted to watch it, so we went and watched it again in IMAX.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So yes, I have seen it twice, and
Yeah.
it's probably one that I will pick up. Not to show my hand too quickly, but yes, I liked it.
As did I know we're coming a little late to the party. Like I said, we're 3 weeks out, and I feel like I've already seen other people's reviews. I don't think
Mm.
we've ever reviewed something this far out. But having said that, despite a couple caveats, which I will say, I ended up having the same caveat as Kevin Smith. My son and I watched it together for the second time, and I told him, I said, one of my biggest issues with it is that they made Jor-El a bad guy. Jor-El is, Kal-El's father, and that really stung for me. And you know what my son says to me? He goes, "Pops, you know why it bothers you so bad?" And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because it makes Superman less Christ-like." And I was like, "Damn, the kid got me." He goes, and he messages me. He goes, "All Kal-El needs is Pa Kent." Like basically that Kansas grounding is all he needed. But then my
Hmm.
son came back and said, "Listen, if it makes you feel any better, Kevin Smith feels the exact same way you do." So I went and checked out Kevin Smith's review, and sure enough, he said, "Yeah, I didn't like them making Jor-El evil." And I would love for them to be kind of retro, like in a further development, maybe something got missed in the translation. But
Well, I
apparently,
think
James Gunn has come on and said, "Nope, that's the way he's making it." So we'll see.
right because I think the film leaves it. It leaves a grain of ambiguity in that
Yes,
in that
yeah.
plot development. You never do know for certain whether there was any more of that message and whether that's what the message said. And I thought, in amongst all the many, many, many things that the film addresses to do with the world right now, that in there you could interpret that as an element of kind of sort of deep fake AI
Yeah, yeah,
technology, and it's like you
yeah.
can't just believe what you see anymore,
Mhm.
and maybe there is no fix to it. Maybe you just have to use your own intelligence
Right.
and context and all the rest of it, and you know that it came out of a malicious place as
Yeah.
well. It was revealed or discovered or created from a bad place, from a malicious place. And so, although they keep saying, and different characters keep saying throughout the story, "Oh no, no, it's definitely real. It's definitely real. It's definitely this is what he said." You never know for certain.
Right.
You never get Jor-El, sorry, saying, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant." That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I really did. Or yeah, and you never see a flashback to when they recorded it or anything like that. So I liked the fact that it was down to his interpretation. It was like, on the one hand, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what your parents wanted wanted you to
Hmm.
be, because we have
Yeah.
seen many stories about parents wanting the worst for their children,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
wanting them to aspire to, or even to, you know, achieve things that they didn't. On the other hand, you know, as your son rightly said, you know, all he needs is his Pa Kent. You
Yeah.
know, he had the right, you know, parent figure, father figure in the world where he was raised, who steered him in the right direction, and that is it's the
Yeah.
greatest argument, if you believe what was in that message, for nurture over nature,
Yeah.
that you could wish for, and I'm a believer in that as well. I'm a believer in it. You know, it's about how you're raised and the environment in which you're raised that influences
Yeah.
you more than anything
Yeah.
genetic or whatever.
Well, and before we leave the Pa Kent, I love Pa and Ma Kent in this film, and I thought James Gunn did something that we haven't really seen before, in that you know, obviously in the Christopher Reeves version we have Glenn Ford, we have Kevin Costner in The Man of Steel.
Hmm.
We've got, I'm trying to think. Oh, we've
I
got
can't.
John Snyder, even in the Smallville TV series, which are these strong farmer types, but they don't always personify that Kansas, just the average guy type feel. And with Mon Pa Kent in this film, you get the real sense of this is real local people. Like this would have been a Kansas couple that took this boy into their house and invoked their Midwest American values
Right.
into him. And that is the restraining factor to him becoming Homelander from the boys, you know, is
Okay.
and for me that is always the great Superman story is when you're a god and you are limitless in power, what is your restraining factor? What is your moral compass? What keeps you from doing whatever you want to do in the most narcissistic way possible? And I think that's why I've always been fascinated with Superman, is that ability to find that moral compass when you don't have to find it.
Mm. I think that that's one thing that the film introduces right from the get-go, that I haven't really seen, and probably people are going to tell me I'm wrong now, in many superhero movies, is just the general public taking to task superheroes who act on their own authority. You know,
Hmm.
they get involved in foreign affairs and global issues because based on their own moral compass of what they deem to be good and right and just and
Yeah.
the appropriate course of action. It's like, well, hang on a minute, you know, based on who and according to what? And that's not how the world works. You know, whenever someone else does that, they're immediately branded like a dictator,
Yeah.
yeah, or you know, and a danger to society. So I thought that that was a really fun, different tack to take right from the get go. It's like, who
Mhm.
do you think you are?
Yeah.
You know, you're not even from round here,
Yeah.
and who are
You're a
you to?
foreigner. You're a foreigner. Why,
Oh,
you know?
and that, I mean, the whole immigrant thing, which
Yeah.
obviously is what the character was created to personify, you know, by a couple of Jewish immigrants back in 1930, whatever, 6 or 7 or whatever it was. You know, he was supposed to be always represent like an immigrant
Mhm.
chasing the American dream kind of thing. And I loved how foregrounded that was
Yeah.
in this version. It was like, yeah, that's what he's
Yeah.
always been about. And so all of these
Yeah.
people kicking their feet in the air and screaming, "Ah, you've turned Superman woke!" It's like, A, we don't use that word because it doesn't mean anything, and B, uh, don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
This is what Superman has always been about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, to me, one of the reasons this movie succeeded is it leaned into the absurdness of a comic book character. And I'm going to steal a little bit from Kevin Smith here because I did watch his review. And he said something that I totally agree with and actually thought of myself was one of the things that, let me just put this in context and backtrack. When I saw 2006's Superman Returns, which in my opinion is still the best post Reeves Superman movie, despite as successful as that film was, the production company felt we want to go in a darker take. We went into the Zack Snyder universe, and I remember them saying, "We want the angry God." And I'm thinking, no, you cannot make Superman the angry God. Like everything in me just went, inside. And although I don't think that manifested in the Henry Cavill version to that degree, there was definitely a darker turn. There was less of a comic book feel and more of and this is where Kevin Smith kind of said, whenever comic books try to imply, well, how would this operate in the real world? Which is where a lot of superhero movies have gone.
Mm,
It doesn't work as well because superheroes don't work in the real world, is what he would say. What makes it special is they operate in their own reality. And when you lean into that reality rather than trying to conform to our reality, that's what people really resonate with. And I was thinking that as I was watching my son and I rewatched Batman Begins. And of course, they're trying to show the Batmobile, of course, is this paramilitary vehicle that was designed for the military. Because in the real world, that's what it would be like. But I don't care. I don't want a paramilitary vehicle for Batman. I want the cool 60s Batmobile from the Adam West version.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Makes no sense, but in comic book world, it is a much better fit for what I want to see in that character. And so I just love that there seems to be attacking back. Hey, we don't have to make Superman's outfit drabber colors or make them less bright because it would look ridiculous to have his underwear on the outside. Superman has his underwear on the outside. Lean into it, and
mm.
that's the way it is. And I think the film actually benefited from that.
Yeah, I think you've got to give James Gunn a lot of credit that he had a clear vision. He certainly has an incredibly strong understanding of the comics, and he came at this. He's like, well, I want to make a comic book movie,
Yeah,
about
yeah,
my favorite comic book character. Yeah, I'm not interested in grounding this in reality. It's that nothing about this has ever been grounded in reality, and nor should it be. That doesn't make sense. That's not why anybody ever reads comic books. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I want a slice of life. So no, you don't. Or if you do, you're not going to find it very often.
No.
What I appreciated about this movie, I think more than anything else, was how much it felt like reading a comic book, a DC
Mhm.
comic book. And I read mainly. I don't read a great deal of comic books, but mainly I read Batman comic books, and whether
Okay.
they're all dark and moody or self-serious or whatever. Quite regularly, what you see is big bright panels, shifts in tone
Yeah.
from one moment to the next, other characters coming in and out all the time, without much backstory, without much explanation. You never you don't get sort of the origin story told again and again and again all the time. And
Mhm.
what I really liked about this one was that it felt like a very conscious shift to be like, no, I want to try and recapture the tone of these comic books, of these DC comic books, on screen for the first time. And as a result, it felt the most like the comic books that one of the DC
Mhm.
movies has ever felt. I think too
Yeah.
often the temptation is to deal with these characters sort of in isolation, on their own. Whereas in the comic books, that's not what happens. That's not how they operate. They are aware of each other's presence all the time.
Yeah.
And frequently I would get lost with the comic books because suddenly turn the page and there's a new panel with a character in there who's not been introduced, and I'm like, who is this? I don't know who this is, but I'm just going to have to keep reading. And sometimes you do find out, and sometimes in that issue you don't find out, and then it's up to me if I want to go and research it. And so in that regard, this film just felt far more like that and wasn't
Yeah.
afraid to shift tone, because Superman does have a girlfriend. Clark Kent does have a girlfriend. They do have families. He does have a dog, Jimmy Olsen, the boy reporter or whatever, he has his own comic as well. And, it was a really nice way of just giving everybody enough screen time to sort of pursue their own stories in the tone
Yeah.
that is consistent with how they are portrayed. I've said one of the most common criticisms I've seen of this film is like, oh, there's not enough Superman in it. It's like, There
There's a
is.
lot of super. Yeah,
There's lots of Superman in it, and there's lots of other stuff too. But it's all within the world of Superman. So what are you talking about?
that's it. I mean, you've got the Nathan Fillion's The Justice Gang,
The Justice
and
Gang.
the
Well,
Justice Gang,
he's
and then you've got Green Lantern and the
yeah,
Valkyrie Girl, and then
Mr.
the
Terrific.
Mr. Terrific. That's I
Yeah,
call it.
and
Um,
she's Hawk Girl, right?
is it Hawk Girl? I
Yeah.
just looked at her as Valkyrie. Like I'm assigning my own names.
With the Valkyries, gosh, I can't believe I even know this. Valkyrie's a Marvel character, isn't it? It's from Thor.
Oh, maybe that's where I'm getting that from.
Yeah.
But I loved Nathan Fillion in this. He played, yeah, I just love that he was willing to play that kind of character because he
Yeah.
usually plays very cool, Malcolm Reynolds or, in his TV shows. Um, and to see him kind of with the bangs haircut and just the dripping narcissism, like a good guy barely,
Mm.
was fun to watch.
Definitely. I loved the Elemental Man or whatever he was called, the guy who
Oh yeah.
Metamorphosio or
Yeah.
forgive me, who turned his hand to kryptonite, and
Yeah.
he's the guy from Barry, one of the few TV shows I have seen. That he's the
Oh,
bald.
yeah.
What's it called?
Okay.
Do you know the guy I mean?
I've only watched the show a couple times.
Okay, it's an American actor, but he plays like this sort of bald Russian, sort of slightly camp hitman.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name is. He's got a funny name in the show. But he was great, and how
Yeah.
he kind of had his own arc and how he then sort of joins
Yeah.
in at the end. He's like, that's the coolest name. I love that little gag at the end that he really likes the name the Justice Gang. So yeah, I mean, so I do. I really enjoyed it. I liked how interconnected it was with, or engaged with, real world events it was, but in a way
Yeah.
that was there if you wanted it to be, and it never felt heavy handed. It never felt forced. It never, you can see Elon Musk there if you want to. You can see Doge in there if you want to. You can see sort of Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia if you want to.
Yeah. Off-site prisons.
Exactly. It's there. It's there if you want it to be there, and
Yeah.
and if you don't want it to be there, then it's like, okay, you just treat it like a fantastical comic book movie, which is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And David Cornsweet makes a fantastic Superman. I mean,
Amazing.
he's just,
Yeah.
it's, and to be honest, the casting of Superman, I mean, from Christopher Reeves to Brandon Routh, now to Henry Cavill, as much as I didn't care much for the Man of Steel series, I loved Henry Cavill. I think he's a brilliant actor. And now David Cornsweet. I mean, just fantastic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I never kind of doubted it for a moment. I think I had seen him in one or two other things, but I didn't recognize him at the time, or it was only after he'd already been cast as Superman. Like I think he's in Twisters last summer, but he'd already been cast as Superman. I was like, oh, isn't that the guy playing Superman next year? But yeah, 3 seconds in, I'm like, yeah, he's Superman.
Yeah.
Didn't think twice about it. It's like, no, yeah. I thought the cast was really, really well done. I love the use of music. James Gunn is great at that. I think I would say probably the first person since Tarantino who introduces music throughout his movies that are not obvious needle drops, but are perfectly suited to the moment. And
yeah, I was going to say nothing can replace the John Williams score, but you feel like the score. There's a subtext John Williams score that's underneath. They're just wanting to brim out, but it doesn't quite. But it tickles that little feeling. I mean, even it's interesting how even the credits, the Christopher Reeve version of Superman has so embedded the legacy of Superman into the whole our understanding. Even when the credits come out, they don't deviate far from 1978.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they have willingly embraced that. Yeah, there are certain elements to Superman on screen that we're gonna
see.
Yeah. We're gonna keep it. And it's like, why not?
Yeah.
I really like that. I think John Williams does get like a credit. His theme does get credited because I think is it John Murphy does the score of the movie and definitely brings it in as a sort of sample.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. You kind of almost hear it at times, but never quite there.
Yeah, no,
So,
I think it does. I think you do hear it, and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
enough for them
yeah,
to acknowledge it. But also, yeah, just his use of songs,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
in the soundtrack
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah. The like when Mr. Terrific's fighting all these guys and Lois Lane is
yeah,
in the bubble.
that one, yeah.
Brilliant. That was I don't even know what song that is, but that it was like such the perfect song.
Yeah, and then just the song to end a Superman movie with an Iggy Pop cover version of a song called Punk Rocker. It's just like, wait, what? You can't end a Superman movie with that. But he does, and it fits
Yeah,
perfectly, and it completely nails the mindset of Superman in that moment, just where
yeah,
he is allowed to, he's just been given a sort of a freedom of his
yeah,
calling, if you like.
yeah, yeah,
He's able to sort of recognize his own agency, I guess, in a way. It was, and this is exactly what I was trying to articulate. It's pulling out songs that I'd never heard or was very unfamiliar with in very specific moments
yeah.
in ways that just work absolutely perfectly. And I was like, yeah.
Well, I mean that whole subtext of kindness is the punk rock. You were talking earlier about
Mm.
agency. Up until the point where he had to question the motives of his Kryptonian parents, he was really living the legacy he thought that they wanted for him. So is it his voice or is he an extension of their voice? And when he had to make a choice, like anybody coming through puberty, yes, we are imbibed with certain things, Pa and Ma Kent, our Kryptonian parents, whatever, but there's decisions we now have to make. And you nailed it. At the end, my agency, the decision I'm going to make is I'm going to go kind. I'm going to go, this is the way I'm going. And that will be punk rock.
Yeah.
Cue Iggy Pop.
Cue Iggy Pop. And when they're like, can you put on that video that comforts me all the time of my mom and
Yeah.
dad?
Yeah.
And this time it's Ma and Pa Kent. It's
Oh,
not
and when
it's
and
not Jor-El and
when Pa Kent's holding him up like to fly.
it's like this is
Whoa,
you've always yeah.
I'm just whew.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a good one. It was a good one. James Gunn did well. How many cryptos? How many capes? How many
I'm stumped now. What's a good
uh how many crypto dogs?
how many crypto dogs? I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it's a version that I'm going to go back to. If I feel like watching a Superman movie, I think it's one that I will sort of go back to. It's a hell of a way to kick off DC Studios, with the whole complete reboot of everything. And I sort of, in a way, I never had a doubt that James Gunn knows what he's doing, and he's the kind of guy they needed at the forefront of DC in the same way that Kevin Feige has been doing with Marvel.
Yeah.
They needed someone like that at the front who's an experienced filmmaker who knows how to get movies made, but also really understands the source material in a way that can protect it as well as develop it. So yeah, really excited to see where he goes with that. They've got what Supergirl's already done. That's coming out next summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got what Clayface coming. There's the Brave and the Bold Batman movie, and then there's the Matt Reeves Batman sequel as well, and all kinds of things on the way. But yeah, this is a really confident start, and I think at the time of recording, I think it's just crossed 300 million domestic, which this amused me, which is more than Man of Steel made domestically. I think Man of Steel made like 291, and Superman has just made 300 now. And I already saw angry comments going, yeah, but you're not counting for inflation. It's like, shut up. Shut up. I like Man of Steel, but this is a better Superman movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. But you didn't say how many
okay.
how many cryptos?
Four, but a big generous 4.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. There's a part of me just because it's Superman, I want to go 5 but there are a couple caveats in it. Now I'm gonna give it 4.5. 4.5. It just fills me with joy, and who knows? Maybe I'll come back and I'll if they make Jor-El a good guy, I might come back and we'll see.
You're missing the point. The point is, it doesn't matter.
I know.
That's the point. It doesn't matter whether he was a good guy or a bad guy.
It does. It doesn't.
They shouldn't have abandoned that baby.
Let us know Does
See,
it?
it doesn't
or
matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't it matter? We'd
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. James?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. Until next episode, everybody. Bye-bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.